You're listening to the Coop Homeschool Podcast.
This is your podcast for community, humility, and joyful fun in homeschooling. I'm Mandy.
I'm Jessica.
And this is The Coop. It's our anniversary today.
Yay!
It's our 1 year podcast anniversary for the CoopHomeschool.com. So excited. And so we are celebrating with a weekend in San Diego. It looks like, if you're watching YouTube, it looks like we're in a very cheap hotel room, but we're not. We're actually, we have a view of the ocean. It's beautiful. We walked to Little Italy tonight for dinner. It was really fun.
It was awesome.
So today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about 3 of our favorite episodes of the podcast. A great way to celebrate our anniversary. Why don't you go first?
Okay.
And do one.
Okay. Yeah. My first favorite episode is episode 1.
Oh.
It's actually the first one that we filmed. So we filmed episode 1 first, which is called The Overwhelm. And it was about all the overwhelming things when it comes to homeschooling. The things that you second guess, the things that make you think you can't do it, and all of the millions of things you have to research to feel confident in homeschooling your kids. So that was the first one we filmed, and we actually filmed episode 0 later. We went inside your house and filmed episode 0. So it was actually really fun. That was our first experience. It probably doesn't sound the best. I haven't listened to it in a long time, but
I listen to the podcast all the time, actually. It's my favorite podcast, I have to say.
Yes.
And I think the sound is still good. We didn't have the mic yet, did we? Or did we?
I think we did.
Oh, we did. Mm-hmm. Okay. But what I really liked about that is it was exciting, right?
Yeah.
It was our first one. It was fun. And we knew that homeschooling is an overwhelming thing.
Totally. Yeah, but we decided to film outside, which we learned there's bugs that crawl on you at any given moment. And there's sounds that you don't anticipate hearing. Motorcycles driving by and other things. And, so it was a learning experience too. So that filming that episode gave us the confidence that, we do have a lot to say, and we do have the ability to organize it and make it into a helpful thing for others.
Yeah, because we struggled with the idea of either typing out what we want to say, which a lot of podcasters do. They have something that they read, and they just make it sound, more casual.
Right.
And we decided, let's just have a conversation, because your husband actually said, the two of you, you're just fun to listen to in your conversation.
Right.
And so we're like, okay, he's like, you could have just had a podcast right now with the conversation you had.
Exactly.
And so that's what really helped us design our podcast around a conversational style.
Right. And this anniversary is June. And so that was 2 months into the coronavirus lockdowns. People weren't sure what was happening in the fall for school. And we just really wanted to be a resource for people to be able to be out there and helpful. So it was good timing.
It was really fun. And it's bonded us even more. I mean, we were already really good friends at that point.
Yeah.
But it just really grew our relationship and working as like a partnership and learning how to work with each other in that way too has been really great.
And while we still work on the website and are writing blogs, the podcast brings us literally physically together. And so that's a really fun thing for us to do. So it's my favorite part of this whole Coop homeschool adventure.
Oh, me too. Definitely.
Yeah. So that's why it's my favorite.
Okay, going in chronological order.
Yes.
Mine was the bonus episode in July with the Coop Dads.
Oh, that is a good one.
I love it when the 4 of us are together. Yeah. We're super fun, super funny together, and we have you and my husband are very similar. Mm-hmm. Your husband and I are very similar, so it's a really fun dynamic. And so during the podcast, it was fun to hear their thoughts and feelings about things, and you just feel more whole, together. And I'd love to do another, bring them in for different topics as well in the future.
Totally. I agree. That was a great episode. I do want to do it again. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Maybe we should do it on that anniversary.
Oh, I know. Yeah. This is the anniversary of our Coop Dads bonus episode anniversary.
Perfect. Done.
Yeah.
Next episode. Okay.
Yeah. But I think it's really helpful for people to hear what the spouses have to say.
Totally.
And if, like, some families, it's just the one parent is into it, and a lot of times it's the mom, and so the dad needs some more encouragement and confirmation about all that. So to have ones where the dads come in, I think it's a very helpful resource for anyone that wants to say, hey, here you can hear a dad talk about it, and the advantages and blessings that homeschooling brings.
Right. And while we do some reflecting in our own home, where I talk to my husband about how it's going, it's not the same when we dive into a topic. I don't ask him what he thinks of socialization. I don't ask him, we just already know we're on the same page. So we're so focused on our children and the things that they're going through that we don't talk about the bigger homeschooling questions. And we already know that we feel comfortable attacking high school and all of these things. And so they're not things that we talk about and discuss out loud. So when we have the opportunity in the course of the podcast, it's actually, I realize, I didn't know that's what you thought of that, or I didn't know you felt so strongly about that thing. And so it's fun to have those moments.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. What's your next one?
My next one is actually episode 12, which was our Coop book club. It was our first one, and it was homegrown, chapters 1 through 3. And so that was fun because we didn't know how that was going to go. We didn't know if people were going to be into hearing us talk about a book or were even going to read it with us. And to be honest, I guess I don't know if anyone else read the book with us.
They didn't need to.
Right, they didn't need to.
We dove into all that and read quotes, and we did all that for you.
So if anyone did read it, that's really awesome. But if not, we certainly had people listening to it, which was cool. And so it was just really fun. I haven't had the opportunity to go through a book chapter by chapter like that in years outside of my kids.
Well, even in a normal book club, you do the whole book a lot of times in that single sitting. And we got to do it across time.
Specific topics, or I don't know, it was definitely unique, and so I actually really enjoyed it, and we were already talking about wanting to do a new one. So,
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I almost picked that whole series actually because what I loved about it was it enabled us to talk about some bigger issues that just naturally came up in the book about homeschooling.
Right.
And normally I don't like books of like memoirs.
Sure.
But it was really fascinating. It was neat to see how an unschooling family living wild and free,
for sure,
literally does it.
Right. Yeah, and he's just a humble, hardworking guy. He didn't create a business out of the book. The book was a genuine desire to share his experience and how successful it's been for his boys. And so I felt really connected to Ben Hewitt in that way. It was just his unique story. Yeah. If we gained things from it, that's fantastic. But it wasn't this, it wasn't a life-changing book, but it was really neat to pick out these things. And again, it was very validating for some of the things that I'm not focused on, and saying, that's okay that you're not focused on that. It's good that your kids are getting these opportunities. So
yeah. And going back to what you just said about how he just wanted to share basically the good news of homeschooling.
Right.
And what it was like in their life. And I feel that's how the homeschool podcasters are.
Yeah.
The homeschooler writers are. We, including us, we all have this genuine desire for people to have this wonderful homeschooling experience.
Right.
And to see all that there is that you can do and all your options available. And so I think it just makes, the Sarah McKenzies and the Julie Bogarts and all these people, I feel kindred to them, even though I've never met them.
Right.
I feel kindred, Ben Hewitt.
We're a community.
Yeah, and we definitely all believe that it's the mission of homeschooling over anything else. It'd be nice, it's probably nice that he made money off his book. Right. Hopefully he got a big profit from it, but his mission wasn't to make money. No. You can just tell that in the book.
Right. Yeah. And then I like that he was able to share the reality of homeschooling and the reality, or unschooling really, but the reality of the concern that you're doing the right thing for your kids. And so that's just that real connection, and that's what we try to provide in our podcast as well, is, hey, you want to know what we did? We messed up. We failed on this thing. We were trying to serve our kids in this way, and we went about it the wrong way, and now we're learning from it and moving on. And so even Ben Hewitt and his wife were experiencing that. They went one direction and realized they were trying to force this direction because they valued it so highly, but it wasn't a good fit. And so they had to rethink everything. And
the Montessori, like when they
the Waldorf school, so they had the Waldorf approach. And so it was just really interesting to hear how they felt really connected and then had to change course. And that's so the truth of homeschooling, and the benefit of what we have chosen is that we can change course. For many people, there is no change, you know?
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to see your kids, think of them as unique beings, and customize their education.
Yeah, and kind of it releases you when you see all the stuff that his kids did that wasn't related to books.
Right.
It helps the rest of us feel okay, they can learn by living life.
Right.
I don't have to just oversaturate their life with books and academic materials, even though I tend to do that.
Sure.
But I can just say, we're going to go spend the day with your grandparents and play cards, swim, and do a piano lesson. And that's good enough. That's actually
great.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. So my next one was episode 19, car schooling.
Yeah.
Okay, one reason I loved it is because I loved the filming of it.
Yes.
I love that we went up to Julian into the campsite and all that.
Yeah.
And we filmed it in the car. And
that was fun.
And it was about the fun you can have in the car learning, whether it's the academics and then also the bag of fun. So I feel like I have a genius contribution to the world. I'm just kidding.
too.
But no, it's a really great idea for people who do long car rides with the little kids, especially, to do the bag of fun. And that's in our blog. That's talked about in the podcast. And in the blog, I actually have a digital download of different games and stuff to put in the bag of fun. But I love that I got to share that, because you have no idea how many times I have shared the bag of fun with people. Anybody going on a road trip, they would call me or email me or text me and say, what do you do?
Right.
And so finally I was like, I gotta save myself the time, and we need to put this in a blog, because I need to be able to send the link. And and so it's really helpful. Like, anyone you know going on a trip, even in an airplane, because I've done it in an airplane, you can send that link of the bag of fun. But we talked about that on the podcast, and it was just funny. It was funny being in a car. There was a car parked right next to us, and they could see that we were talking and filming, and they finally moved,
a little awkward.
Yeah, but we were at the campsite that we ended up not even staying at because of COVID, and we couldn't all stay there.
Our camping trip was canceled,
Yeah. But it was such a fun girls' day.
We got a great adventure out of it.
Yeah, it was really fun, and I think a very practical and helpful podcast.
Absolutely. I'm in my car all the time still. You know, I homeschool, but we don't stay home. So it's very helpful to know that there's ways to be in your car and make them enriching and fun. You know, those aren't mutually exclusive things. You can have educational aspects that are really fun.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's neat to hear all the different things that we include in the car as part of our normal schooling.
Right, yeah.
All right. My final favorite episode is episode 27, Mom Friends.
Oh!
That one was really fun because we just have a good group of mom friends in general. And there's just something really special about finding good people that you connect with who also share so many passions in life with you. You know, so having, we call them our homeschool mom friends, but really they're just my friends. And we talked about Galentine's Day, which we had our second annual Galentine's Day right after that, I think. And so it was just super special that it's now our second annual event, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then we just had a girls' night at my house, and we watched Clueless, and that was super fun. And
it was so fun.
It was so fun to just have my friends over and watch a movie.
In our jammies on the couch, and then everybody brought a snack.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
A
snack and drinks. And So we brought like movie theater style snacks, and it was really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I did bring a dozen donuts.
Right.
That's not really movie style,
right.
but
well, I was gonna say,
favorite.
Yeah, it was my birthday, and so it was a good excuse to have this particular event on my birthday. So then you went overboard and got gifts and extras, but it was a very sweet and special day. And in that event, you asked everybody to share something that they appreciate about me or something, and it was really special. And I realized how truly blessed I am with friends in my life, and I feel very confident that I'm here. And so that episode, Mom Friends, was trying to encourage other moms. If you haven't found your people, don't stop. They're there. Look for them. Find them. You have to put yourself out there, and let me tell you, it is so worth it.
It is. And it takes time.
It does.
A couple of years ago, we kind of all barely knew each other, right. But we all were homeschooling.
Right.
And then last year, people came a little more frequently. Mm-hmm. And then this year, it is a good showing for every event that we do for homeschool, our homeschool families together. And then people have started hanging more outside of the Coop group together in just 2s and 3s.
Yeah.
Or 4s or whatever.
Right. But, whatever groupings that are natural. So now there's natural relationships that have formed due to our Coop group. And I mean, quite honestly, I think 2020, everything being shut down, we had some pretty super cool, and we've said this 1,000 times, but we had super cool things planned right when the pandemic began. And so I think it really became apparent to all of us, even though sometimes it felt like a chore to go to Coop group because we were so used to it.
Yeah.
We didn't realize what we were missing when we didn't have it. Mm-hmm. And so to have 2020 kind of keep us separated, I think we all really value this group now in a way that we couldn't have without that experience. Yeah. And so this year, everyone was really present. And it was just a really neat thing. And so I know that not every woman needs to have multiple friends. There's some people who prefer just one close friend, and that's fine. So this is not necessarily the advice for everybody, but if you yearn for a group, they're out there, and there are people who are your people. And so we tried to give our best ideas for helping you find your people and to be confident that there are people out there.
Yeah, we give a lot of tips, which I think are very helpful for those especially who aren't community builders but want the community.
Right, you have to join one.
Yeah.
You might not have to do the planning, but you have to put yourself out there, and that's important. And then you find people. And we talked about that, I need people to pursue me and to invite me to things, and I love to say yes. Mm-hmm. Or I love to be inspired to plan something because I have those friends. But I'm not necessarily the initiator.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Mom friends is
that's
my
good.
Last one.
Okay, my last one is socialization.
Ooh,
I know.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and that's episode 36. We just did that in April, and because I love talking about trigger subjects with people. Yes, I am a provoker.
Yes, you are.
And I do love that.
Right.
And then I love that socialization is such a hot topic for people, homeschooling and not homeschooling.
Right.
And people don't even know what socialization is. And so I love that was spelled out. Like, do you realize what socialization is and isn't?
Right.
And I love any time that we can redefine something and rebox it.
Right.
And present it in the way that it should actually be presented.
Yeah.
So that people have a better understanding of it, and it's not just this free-for-all on what socialization means.
Sure.
And so that represents, like I was saying with the homegrown, I liked it when we could really talk about the deeper subjects. Mm-hmm. And socialization was one of them. And it was just fun. It was fun to hear, the research about certain things and, about cooperative learning versus competitive learning and what groups tended toward what, and it's just fascinating.
I agree.
Yeah, it was fun.
That was fun. Well, so we each individually chose our favorites, and then I told her what number episodes I chose, and it turned out we didn't choose the same ones.
Yeah.
I thought for sure we'd choose the same ones.
Yeah.
But it's fun that we didn't. And I like that we,
Well, I love so many of them. And what did the spouse say? I was like, well, which ones would you pick?
Yeah.
And
ooh, that should be the Coop Dads episode.
Yeah.
Tell us, boys, which ones
he said
you like.
He could. Oh, he was much funnier than me, but
they're all just so good.
Oh yeah. Where do I begin? I mean, I could pick all of them. I can't even choose. But he does. Every Monday, because they air on Monday.
Right.
Every Monday, I was like, when he gets home from work, because he'll listen to it in the car or whatever, I'm like, did you listen to the podcast? Yeah. And he's like, another good one, or you did it again.
Aww.
And so it's really great to get that support,
encouraging,
to hear someone that isn't a homeschool mom. I mean, he's a homeschool dad, but he really enjoys the podcast. And I was like, yeah, sometimes, this other stuff gets to be a lot, like keeping up the website and things like that. And he said, well, if you get rid of anything, don't get rid of the podcast.
Right.
Like he's like, that brings you guys so much joy and it brings you
tell.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we just have so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah. My husband likes watching it. And so I have a hard time. I'm very self-conscious. So even doing this is always big for me, even though I love to talk about these things because I'm passionate, but I'd much rather do it in a live setting and, be done with it. I don't want to have to see myself doing it. So he always watches the podcast. And so I'll walk in a room and it's on and I'm like, and then, and he's like, come watch it with me. I'm like,
I love watching myself. Oh yeah. I love the beginning too. Mm-hmm. When you watch on YouTube, there's like all these different pictures that we take for each episode.
So funny.
Yeah, it's
we're
really
funny.
Cute.
We're dorks.
Okay, so I have a question for you off the cuff.
Oh dear. Okay.
And I can always go first because I was thinking of it, since I'm always thinking of myself while people are talking. So I was already thinking of my question and my answer while you were talking.
Okay, ask the question and I'll tell you what I need.
Okay. So in the past year of podcasts, how have the podcasts influenced you or changed you?
Ooh.
Or your homeschooling in the past year?
Well, I'm not as good at reading nonfiction that are not biographies. And so reading Homegrown, I'd had Homegrown. I'd already wanted to read it.
Yeah.
But I hadn't wanted to pick it up, So I have collected these homeschool books for my enrichment and to have a support for myself. Yet I don't ever feel compelled to pick them up. But because of the podcast, I wanted to encourage others to read them because they are helpful.
Yeah.
And then I liked being able to review the books together with you and to discuss them with you. And so that was definitely one way that I've personally grown in my homeschool journey. And then just the idea of living up to what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then when we share our scoops and our joys, it reminds me to be intentional and to look for those things because it's just life. It's just all one big melded together experience that I don't always pick out individual joys or bad days. I'm like, I don't know, it was all fine. So for me to intentionally sit back and review a week or two and pick out moments that I'd want to share as real experiences and something that's joyful was a challenge, and it was a good challenge to be thankful for this opportunity I have. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow, it sounds like you already knew my question.
I didn't. I can pretend pretty well. You chimed in
without an or a hesitation. That's pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to piggyback on the book because I think I finished Brave Learner only because we were going to do a podcast on Brave Learner. I read Homegrown only because we were doing a podcast on Homegrown. I like you, I have a whole shelf of like 24 homeschooling books or parenting books that I don't get to.
Right.
Because I'm busy doing other things and then so it's nice having something, but what I liked about the Homegrown is it was spread out enough where I could easily do it.
Right.
And it gave me more accountability to do it, and more reason to do it. I'm not just benefiting me, I'm benefiting the world.
It's my job.
The podcast world.
Yeah.
Okay, and then also reflecting. So I'm more, let's just do it and move on. And this really helped me to go back and look at examples and really think about, wow, I totally messed up on this, and actually think about it. Right. And the other day, yesterday, my daughter was hitting the tennis ball again, trying to dribble, and she got to, 35 this time. And I immediately shout out, when you get to 100, I'll take you to Yogurtland. And I literally was like, I looked over at Marcus, and I was like, can you believe
hilarious.
I just did that? I just did that. I just took away her joy of getting to 100.
Naturally.
Just because she got to 100. And now I've inserted myself into her accomplishments and made it be an external motivation.
Right.
But see, I wouldn't have realized I was doing that if I hadn't done the podcast and really reflected on it and looked at the research and really saw that, wow, all this stuff I add in to reward is taking away.
Right.
And so at least that time I could acknowledge it. And Marcus is like, yeah, actually, you could have still done that, but waited till she got to 100 and said, hey,
let's celebrate.
Should we celebrate? Let's go to Yogurtland.
Right. You unintentionally made it an extrinsic reward when that's not what you were trying to
Right.
do. You were just trying to celebrate an accomplishment while also setting a new goal for her.
Yeah.
And those aren't inherently bad things, but you know the consequence of now having this pressure to do it. And now she's not doing it just to see if she could get that high.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Well, and guess what the other two ended up doing?
What about me?
Oh, they got up and they got their rackets and they started going. And they hadn't been doing it other than that first or second day we got back from the first tennis lesson. And so they needed that external motivation.
Right.
But I inserted that for someone who didn't need it.
No.
But I wouldn't have, so I was just glad that I noticed it right away, right when I did it.
Well, now let me ask you, what's going to happen now if the siblings
Any
get
of
to
them.
100 first?
Then
before the one you offered it to.
Yeah. Well,
you're going to celebrate all, like,
they would each get their own time. So I would take one.
Right.
We already have.
I'm just saying, for the one that you offered it to who had already been working hard, if she doesn't make it first.
I know. I don't know.
She has to see her siblings go.
They already are practicing way less.
Okay, good. Yeah. She's still keeping up with it more.
She would be still ahead of them as of right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are all things you don't even think about when you're throwing out these external rewards. And the podcast, and then I write the blog about it, right? And so that made me look at it more. It made me do more research. Mm-hmm. And I just love that it's doing that for me. And the spouse has said, no matter what, it's just making you a better homeschool mom and a better mom.
Right.
Really. You know, I mean, it's all the same.
Right.
And just to be able to recognize things right away now, feelings right away, and I can acknowledge it and humbly acknowledge it. I mean, it's not humble to say you're humble about it, but in a way I am being humble in that it's like I immediately say, oops, I did not want to do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And being
I didn't say I was sorry. I just, Marcus and I discussed it. It was done.
Right.
It was just done already. What could I do about that?
So funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was what I'm learning and growing from, and then our friendship. I feel like you're teaching me things. I'm hopefully teaching you things, and we challenge each other in different ways, and I feel like I'm better than I was a year ago, and that's all you want. You just want to see progress.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So if you guys have a favorite episode that you want to tell us about, email us at mamahens@thecoophomeschool.com, or go to our website, thecoophomeschool.com, and go to our contact page, and you can contact us there.
Yep.
Well, thanks for tuning in for this past year. It's been wonderful.
Yay!
Thanks for listening. We love your support. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast, leave a rating and review to let us know how we're doing, and share our podcast with your friends who need a little community, humility, and joyful fun in homeschooling.